And once again, hello. Today, September 27, 2023, this is recording 580, entitled The Revealing of the Christ. I get my titles by sitting and just simply saying, what's in my consciousness that wants an answer or more explanation or to be expressed, however. And as these titles come, I just write them down and go on, and then I wait a few days for the information to fill itself in. The revealing of the Christ. This is a great event. This is to be the greatest event that man is to behold. If you will recall the scriptures that have been taught through the ages, it says, and we all shall behold him in the sky as he comes in the eastern sky and reveals himself. Some churches speak of a rapture where he comes and he swoops up those that are righteously clothed and carries them off to safety. Some teach that he comes as a judge to separate the right from the wrong. But no matter what, this is to be the greatest event that mankind is to behold, the revealing of the Christ on earth. The world lives as it does, aware or voluntarily unaware of the holy edicts declared from ages old. The Christ of God must be revealed, and all of mankind will be judged relative to their individual acceptance or denial of his existence. That's the world that we live in. You can go from church to church to church and hear people speaking of when Jesus comes back, or nothing's going to happen to me. He's going to come back and he's going to rapture me and he's going to carry me off. And we hear these stories being told over and over and over. And those who walk with me, you are now questioning those types of things because you have learned some things that kind of disprove that scenario that these people are believing. He's going to come back again and all's going to be well. The Christ, believed to be an individual personification of God made visible, is believed to have ascended into the realms heavenly with the intent of returning to the visible realm to secure, save, and carry away believers to eternal bliss and rest, to be ever with the Father. I just mentioned or alluded to that a few moments ago. This is the belief that mankind has, that God has one personification, which he calls the Christ, which is the visible image of him. And he sent that Christ here. That Christ came and performed whatever the assignment was, saved the world or give instruction, and then returned and said, I will come again. And mankind lives within that hope. And within that hope, mankind knows there's no way for him to make it. It's like someone posted on Facebook yesterday, I think it was, I saw it. It said, you can't just treat people any kind of way you want to. God sees it all. And I wanted so much to write back and said, and what's that got to do with the cost of coffee or the cost of coffee beans? The fact that God sees it all. You see, if there's no answer to the chaos that we live in, what's the need in living in it? If I know that when Jesus comes back, even if he comes back and pays those people back for what they did, what's going to happen to me? Because I didn't do anything to better, right? To better the situation. It says, pray for them who despitefully use you. Well, I didn't see anybody praying for that person in that edict, in that expression. It says, forgive them. I didn't see any forgiveness going for. All we ever see is people bemoaning the situations that they're in, and if your life is anything like mine, it has noticed that when a situation gets that bad, we usually take it into our own hands to go and make these people pay for what they did. Now, if we give evil for evil, then how have we progressed? See? And yet man lives in that hope of a returning Jesus, and he says, when I return, will I find faith in the earth, or will I find men buying and selling and giving in marriage? Well, people don't understand that when he said, when I find people buying and selling and giving in marriage, he's simply saying, well, I find you living as you lived before I came the first time. Will I find you, after I gave you this freedom, this teachings, and all things that said, if you do these, greater works shall you do. After I gave you all of this, when I come back, will I still find you living life status quo? That's all he's saying. He's not saying giving and selling and buying and selling and giving in marriage. No, he's saying, will you still be living in the same you from? As mankind has existed for more than 2,000 years, awaiting this event, since the declaration, one cannot help but wonder about the holy writings that speak otherwise. That this entity already abides within each individual, awaiting the recognition of such truth and the consequential surrender that its return be visualized. Now that right there ought to stop you. It ought to stop you and make you ponder what you're thinking. The world is living, waiting on the return of the Christ to set me free and carry me away, where the scriptures say the entity is already within you, waiting on your recognition and surrender to this truth, that the return of this entity be visualized. And that right there, we could take that and maybe split it into two beliefs again, one being material and the other being spiritual. The material being, okay, I recognize enough of it that when he returns, I will actually see him return. Or what it actually means. His return will be within me. Now, it's your choice, my choice, our choice to choose which one of those we choose to believe. But for 2023 years, look at how we keep trying to undergird people and keep them held up by saying, he's coming. He's coming. Just give him a few more days. And he says, I come quickly. Look at the people who have lived their 70, if they made it that far. How many centuries, how many times have centuries lived, 70 years. People have lived 70 years all the way up to 2023, awaiting the second coming. And yet we say what? He's coming back. He's coming back. Until we are able to get above that understanding of his return, mankind will suffer and continue to suffer and continue to suffer. Then the question comes then, what happens to me if I choose to believe that the return will be within? Now you immediately see you are being separated from mankind in belief. You see that. So why would you stand in front of them after you say, know ye not that Christ is in you? And you go to church, and what will they say? Yeah, I got Jesus in me. And your next thing would be, then, why don't you act like it? And immediately, you got World War III on your hands. But that's the scriptures. Know ye not that Christ is in you, saith the ones who have proven this. Okay, we're not listening to people who are speaking in a hope. This is Paul saying, do you not know that Christ is in you? John, the Revelator, what did he say? He is the light that lights every man that comes into the world. Peter, James, they all attest to what? We beheld him. We handled him. But now we know him differently. How can you know him differently unless you get to know him? And the more you get to know him, he is being revealed. And where is he being revealed? Outside of you or within you? And the more you find out about him, the more our conversation is curtailed with those who are outside of us. Because now we're casting pearls before swine. What more does one require to accept this truth and surrender to it, that which is unlike it be removed? We hear every day of people going into hospitals and surgery rooms to have what? That which is unlike their nature, health, they go in with the hope that it would be removed. Well, then why would we surrender to the Christ of our being? That belief, the belief that is keeping us unhealthy, the belief that is causing us to suffer needlessly. I just had a conversation with someone a little bit earlier from how hard it is to accept the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. The moment I take concern about anything lacking, then the Lord is not my shepherd. I need to own up to that. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not walking around saying I get this right all the time and everybody else getting it wrong. No. I sit and look at situations, and all of a sudden I find myself having a conversation with myself, and I go, whoa, wait a minute. Why are you having this conversation? If the Lord is my shepherd, he prepareth a table before me. Therefore, whatsoever is necessary for my well-being is already in his well-being, and he has put it on the table. What does he want me to do? To digest it. I can't eat it and make it so. I can't eat it and make it happen. I can't walk in a room and say, I'm going to be the Christ in this room. No, that's not how it works. How does it work? By me looking at it and pondering it and keeping my mind on it until it reveals itself. Now, as it reveals itself, it may reveal itself as a raise. It may reveal itself as a home, a needed transportation. It may reveal itself as clothing, a better relationship. But don't be distracted. Don't be distracted thinking that God is now giving me good things. You see what I'm saying? No. What's actually happening? The Christ is being revealed. It's sort of like the question I asked you last week. How does the ear of corn know to form itself from you dropping a kernel of corn in the ground and just watching over to keep weed it, to water it, let the nutrients come, sunshine? What? It's in the seed. The seed rests in the soil. The scriptures tell us that we are planted in good soil when we reach the fourth degree of believing, and we bring forth fruit, some 30, some 60, some 100-fold. But the bottom line is, we need to understand we're not bringing forth that fruit. It's in the seed. And as long as we nurture the seed, how do I nurture the seed? With focused attention of not wanting, but beholding the seed. The seed is intelligent within itself, and the seed already knows the height to which it is to grow. What then is the height that it is to grow? The maturity of the revealed Christ made visible. So every time I begin to moan and groan, I need to, at some point, stop myself and say, wait a minute. From the consciousness that lives in a world of matter, right and wrong, good and evil, I am delivered. And don't just say, I am delivered in hopes of a mighty hand moving in and stopping. No. What is the stoppage? The revealing of the truth that comes to you, and it may come in an area. Sometimes somebody gets a blessing over here, but they wanted something over here, but they get a blessing over here and they don't pay any attention to that one. That's the Christ saying, this is what you need right now over here. You don't need that over here. You need this. You need to recognize that I am working. And most of the time, where is the Christ working to reveal itself? In an area that you're not focused on. You need to get that. The more you stay focused on an area, you hold back the hand of the Christ. But when you came over here and said, I'd like to have a Dunkin' Donut glaze, whatever today, and you forget it and go on. But you get over here and say, why won't these people stop parking in my yard? And why won't they stop? And somebody walks up and hands you a Dunkin' Donut just the way you described it in your thought, but you paid no more attention to it other than what? Saw it, accepted it, and went on. But over here, these people just will not stop parking in your yard, and they just got mud puddles and whatnot. You're to the point where you're ready to go down and talk to City Hall and the commission and talk. I got to stop these people. And Christ is saying, if you would just look at that the same way you looked at that donut and move on to something else. Why? Because all things are yours. Why are all things mine? Because I got the Christ in me. And it's my focus on the Christ in me that's revealing the Christ. I don't need to prove to people that I know the Christ. That's the kiss of death. Go ahead and try to tell somebody, show somebody you know the Christ. The first thing they're going to say is, oh, okay. You don't know where I'm from, do you? You're going to say, no, where are you from? They're going to say, Missouri. And that tells you right there, I better leave this alone. There is a veil of unbelief that distorts the wonderful good news of our existing freedom. Who do you think created that veil of unbelief in your life? You did. And how did you create it? By using your senses, your 5 senses that we know of, and deciding that what you were looking at is true. And it created a veil. And it's distorting the fact that a table is ever set before you, saying, pay it no mind. Pay it no mind. I don't have time to look at what is causing itself an enemy. Why? Because I have no enemies. It's just a hypnotism. A hypnotism that has surrounded the world, and the world gets upset when you try to break it. Behold, there that word is. What have I taught you about the word behold? When you hear it, stop. Stop whatever you're doing and pay attention to what's coming behind it. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. See? I stand at the, behold, stop. I stand at the door and knock. Okay, you have my attention, Jesus. You're standing at the door and knocking. But this is the way the world perceives it. They believe this to be some knowledge of freedom that enters from outside oneself. And in this understanding or this acceptance, man continues to live in an ever-discouraging catch-22. This knowledge, this knocking that Jesus is saying, it comes not from beyond us, but is a gentle, persistent knocking from within. You need to catch what just got said there. Because when they told us we needed Jesus, we needed the Lord, we immediately took off and joined the church. Took off, started reading books, took off, started listening to it. No, the knowledge does not come from outside of us. It comes from us focusing within and saying, okay, you have my attention. God is. What is God? God is. God is all. It doesn't matter whether I understand it or not. I am giving my full attention to the fact that God is. And I'm giving that attention where? Within. So if I'm giving that attention within, that means now this knowledge must come forth from the Father of lights who dwells in the temple, which I am. Now I realize he's standing at the door of my understanding. The Christ already within me is asking for attention in a one-on-one relationship that it may make itself known. That's all it's asking for. All it wants me to do is focus. Don't get discouraged when the blessings don't come flowing down like Niagara Falls. Just keep focusing, because he said they'll come. Why? Because where you focus your attention, the results come. The light shineth within, that the eyes of our understanding may be made whole and fruitful. That's the purpose. So when I'm out here in the world, I'm saluting everybody without saying a word. I want them to be successful. It's hard sometimes when you run up to that person that rolls their eyes or is always saying something, but the bottom line is, why are they doing it? Because they're in the hypnotism. They're hypnotized. You're not. He who knows what to do and does it not, it is sin. That's scripture. Wow. We need to read our scriptures. Like a person told me one day, I don't want to read. I said, okay, well, don't. That doesn't mean you're not going to get taught, but it's probably going to be harder. You see what I'm saying? Because whatever you put in your conscience takes root. I am told that this life of Christ is already my life. And with my heart centered on realizing this, I shall enjoy the liberties as displayed by Jesus and all that have allowed this process to unfold. What did I just say? Somebody has already proven this. See? Someone has already proven it. If they have proven it, then they're coming and saying, hey, check this out. Don't let this just be a thought, and don't let it be something that you do simply because you want to eat, drink, and be merry. God did not create us to just have a happy life. Okay? You need to get away from that. There are teachings out there right now that's teaching you that you can get anything you want if you do this. You don't believe me? Go over on YouTube and look. Manifest money. Manifest clothing. Manifest job. Manifest cars. Manifest anything you want. And you know what? It works. Those things work. But the bottom line is, how can you manifest salvation? You can't. One of the things that we need to meditate is that everything that you see in this world, God did not make. I thought it was odd, astonishing. Yesterday morning I got up, and that thought hit me. It's just, whatever you see is not, God didn't make it. And I'm like, that's interesting. So I go and start doing my studying, and guess what comes into my study? Everything you see out here, God didn't make it. Why? Because everything you see out here deteriorates and disintegrates, destroyed, or goes away. But everything God made is eternal, never destroyed. So therefore, the world that I live in, Jesus, when he said, my kingdom is not of this world, the world that I live in, what is it? It's not of this world. So therefore, as I live in the world of spirituality, that spirituality expresses itself in this world as a symbol of that which I saw in the eternals. That also means that it's going to show up and it's going to live for a period of time and it's going to leave. But the bottom line is it's going to be replaced with what? Something else that's eternal, something else that's symbolized. Once I understand, this is how I begin to live what is called the impersonal life, knowing then that nothing is ever separated from God, no matter how attached I get to it. What God has joined, let no man put asunder. So therefore, God is never separated from that which he infills. And what is it that he does not infill? Nothing. So even these symbols that show up, they show up as symbolic representations filled with the consciousness that brings them here, which is God. Okay? But as they leave, God is still there, always there. So I am never separated from that which is good, because that which is good is God, and that which is God is eternal. I stop myself from trying to become or display these qualities, and I allow the truth of the seed of this process to reveal itself. That's where patience comes in. I am told by many people, man, you got great patience. And I'm like, it doesn't feel like it a lot of times. I'm just trying to let this play out the right way. But the bottom line is, what is patience? Patience is a virtue. After patience has had her perfect work, oh my goodness. So can I fail? No. I can't even wait too long, can I? Why? Because I'm using patience with a focus on God. Now, if I'm using patience on when I want these people just do right, won't it? No. I'm going to suffer. So if patience is a virtue, then I'm going to recognize it as such. The events aforementioned of the Christ return will most assuredly occur as I offer myself to behold its transformation. It's not changing me, okay? The more I focus on the Word of God, it's not changing me. It's throwing off the hypnotism to reveal that which I already am. In him was life, and that life was the light that lights every man that comes into this world. Well, if the Christ light is the light that created all things and it's in every man, and the Christ being the firstborn of God, what does that make me? When the hypnotism gets thrown off, what is being revealed? As I have fashioned myself to appear as I am, I therefore offer myself now to be fashioned as he who has fashioned all things, in his image, in his likeness. It's like the person who sits in the haircutting chair. You tell the man how you want your hair cut, and you show him a picture and whatnot, but you don't know how it's going to look, right? Until he goes, okay, here you go. And he puts that in front of you. You go, okay. And sometimes it looks exactly like what you wanted. Sometimes it's his interpretation, and he just didn't seem to get it right. But he thought he did, didn't he? You see, God said there ain't going to be no guessing. When I'm finished with you, you're going to look just like my son. There is no more pondering, but a concerted focus on the Father's hand that is the only hand that can and will openly showcase his handiwork, revealing the Christ. God bless you. Let's have a meditation. In him, I realize, is the substance of all things. There's nothing lacking. There's nothing need to be input. No stirring, no baking, no cooking. There is a complete substance, the substance of God, complete and whole. It comes forth as it is designed. It is always on time. It is never lacking. It is never limited. It is never catching up to schedule, for it is complete. I relegate myself to this process, holding back any reservations that it's not coming fast enough or it should come this way or that way, but knowing that the Father who seeth in secret, and what does he see in secret? The Father sees my devotion, and my devotion is rewarded by that which cannot be denied. I look unto the Father not to get. I look not to the Father, but to behold, knowing that whose hands I have placed myself in cannot fail. And I honor the Father with this attention. Speak, Lord. Your servant is listening.